tyranny, face the threat, face the fear and defeat it. Deny it out of cowardice. It will conquer us, not just physically, but with its madness. Whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. That was first spoken by Prometheus in Henry Wadsworth's Longfellow's poem. The Mask of Pandora. Whom the gods would destroy, they would first make mad. It's how the gods kill. And you can see that now unfolding here today. We're going right back to Steve Quayle. And that's why when Steve Quayle gets on, I get real excited and start jumping in and start getting upset. Because I say, globalist documents state they want to reduce population by 90%. You know, they're on record saying that we're the main enemy and they're organizing society around destroying us. But see, Steve Quayle comes on and he gives a source. And I do that a lot too, but then I just start remembering that document and hundreds of others, and my brain just explodes with the frustration that we're not making this stuff up, people. And this is what I want to say, and I want to get Steve Quayle's take on this after I talk about an important issue. I want to be thinking about this. Imagine if there was a 25-year-old guy in town, in your town, who started writing books about how he wanted to kill 90% of people in the town. You'd start watching him, you start getting concerned about him, and when he took a wrong step, you know, he'd be in jail. Or the police would talk to him and say, you planning to really kill somebody? Because that's premeditated, and we're going to go ahead and slap you in jail right now. You have David Rockefeller, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Henry Kissinger, the head of Pepsi, the Chinese Communist government, Charlie Rose, basically every globalist you can imagine, talking about the big end game being world population reduction of 90%. Prince Philip, I say Ted Turner, Prince Charles, the Dutch Queen, Beatrix, her son, just you name it, Dr. Pianka, all of them. You don't get in the club unless you're in this religion. See, I study the religion of my captors, basically, that are trying to shut down my freedom. But they don't want to make it too obvious because they want everybody to stay asleep. I'm jumping up and down saying, you better get awake to this. They have all said their plan. And you know what? They're about 5, 6, 7 years behind some parts of the plan. They're 20 years behind on other parts. They're ahead on some parts. In my view, that's a good question to ask Quayle. Where does he think their plan is? But here's the issue. They are guided by a dark dream of mass death, and then they merge with machines. Their God has told them, whether you believe in that or not, they write about it. How Lucifer's their God and the Earth First Battalion in the Pentagon. That's what Men Who Stares Out Goats comes out of. And General Stubblebine, I'm not saying he ran that, but I think he's a good guy overall. But we've had the Major General on. And in those battalions, they said, we are the horsemen death riding for Lucifer, one world government to carry out the plan of Club of Rome. I have that manual. Tex Mars got one of the only copies from the Department of Defense, listed classified. He was a captain in the Air Force, and he's a space and aeronautics professor. People just think he's a guy that writes, books about the New World Order. When you know all this information, you know this is the plan. And then I think about how long I've been on air, 20 years. And they'll play an intro that McBreen made with Charlton Heston in it. I knew Charlton Heston. I know Major Stubblebine. I know, and I'm not bragging, I know Dr. Frederick Whitehurst, the head of the crime lab that exposed the FBI fraud. I knew Gary Webb. It's just when you do this talk show focused for 20 years, and you know everybody from Steve Quayle to George Norrie, from Ron Paul to Rand Paul, and you've got all this data, I don't think the average person in government is doing this much research. They're compartmentalized. Only the Illuminists are doing it, and they're from their perspective. We're doing the perspective research from our perspective of loving humanity, wanting to build humanity. But in a way, you stare into the abyss, you become the abyss, as Nietzsche said. I know their plan. I live it by studying it, and I'm so close to them. And I don't love them. I detest them. They have the quote in Ender's Game, when you study an enemy so long, you know them and then you love them. No, you don't love them. You're seeing manifest pit of hell eighth dimension, whatever you want to call it, demon forces. And that's what Steve Quayle gets into. When you finally get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, you realize that the only thing that makes sense is that it's like an extraterrestrial operation against us. I mean, I'm just going to come right out with it. And I love God. It's the Christian perspective. It all fits right there. That this is a master diabolical plan. But God says we can beat it if we have knowledge. We perish for lack of knowledge if we understand the mass deception. Because they're offering the Illuminati eternal life through computers, but first they got to kill us because they got to save the earth. But then meanwhile, they're doing GMO and all this stuff that's killing the earth. No, folks, they're going to kill the earth. You understand how we're on a planet? Of course there's stuff jacking with us. What do you think's going on? Can't you see it? And I don't care if Media Matters and the White House makes fun of me. I've covered Skull and Bones. I've covered Bohemian Grove. I grew up around that crap in Dallas. You people all know what you're involved in. And you're going to get destroyed by it. And I don't want to be destroyed by it. I don't want my soul destroyed by it. So whether it is entities or not, the mass consciousness of humanity is manifesting this devilish archetype. Take that. See, either way you cut it, it's real. I'm going to Steve Quayle. I'm going to shut up with the balance of the hour, give him the entire rest of the hour, and then 20 minutes to the next, then we'll take calls. He's got so much to say. He just really sets me on fire. Catching fire is what's happening here. And it's those fires in the minds of men of truth and justice that will lead us out of this. And all I know is it's real. That's why they attack me all day and say I'm not legitimate and I don't mean what I say and it's not real, because they got my phones tapped. They got my MO. They know who I am. They know my family. They know I'm real. And they're into bloodlines. They know my family bloodlines are always fighting. I'm going all the way back. And that's just how things work. And so they absolutely want to destroy me, and they probably will. But what matters is they won't get my soul. And folks, they're coming after you. If you're a good person and love God and love justice and love puppy dogs and kittens, but you're strong and have the will to crush them, they want you destroyed. Do you understand that? There's no room for us in their system. Now, before we go back to Steve Quayle,